and modern problems require modern solutions.
As what my friends always said to me at that time, that doesn't actually work in real life. Hey guys, Coney Gaming here, and welcome back again to another episode of Love, Money, Rock and Roll. Now, we last left off the events happened on the previous episode that we are having a early backstory between these two. And as for this one, we might as well get into the conclusion that we are now getting on the story arc with Himitsu on this one. A lot of things happened on the previous video. There are good times and bad times happen on that one. And not to mention the events that just happened on the previous video that Himitsu want to sleep with Nikolai, and I think she was implying that the reason why he loves Katja is by sex or something. I don't know, but I think I explained everything about what I said on that previous video about that sex was not the optimal solution for that kind of problem, to forget everything that she had done to him. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything about it. I just don't want to make the same mistake that I did on these previous the oldest episodes that I've done in this series. So if you want to see that entire video of the previous video I mentioned before, the link is in the description below, or maybe just go ahead and click at the top right corner of your screen. So before we continue, hit the subscribe button and also hit the like button if you find this video enjoyable, and also hit the notification bell to get notified for the upcoming contents in my channel. So without further ado, let's get into it. And this is the 8th episode of Love, Money, Rock and Roll. Enjoy. Sometimes life gives you a second chance. All you need for it is a good night's sleep. The events of the past day had already faded and no longer brought me as much pain. The storm had passed, and I was standing on the deck watching it go. My existential skiff had somehow avoided being crushed, and it was all over now. But I had almost slipped up. Maybe the only thing Himitsu wouldn't have tolerated was self-pity. Even if it manifested like this. Sunday morning started peacefully as usual, and it's probably the only day when all, or almost all, Japanese people rest. It's a time to be with your family and deal with housework. I remembered it was Himitsu's big cleanup day. Did that mean I wouldn't see her? On the one hand, that was a good thing. We both needed to cool down. But I did feel bored. For the first time in a long while, I had a quiet day, and what did I do? Grumble at the thought that my life might finally return to its normal course. The breakfast seemed insipid and somehow wrong. After a couple of minutes, I couldn't even remember what I'd been eating. TV didn't entertain me with the contents of its box, and hadn't bought any new games for a while. Was bored with the old ones, and pretty letters danced circles in front of my eyes. Now isn't this something? Just a week ago, I could spend the entire weekend bumming around. Maybe it wasn't about being bored after all. Yesterday's evening with Himitsu distracted me from thoughts about Catherine, but nothing had really changed. Maybe I wasn't as sensitive about her being less than 1,000 miles away from me anymore, but I couldn't solve the problem by ignoring it. Oh, okay. A phone call interrupted the disorder of my thoughts. I forced myself to answer it. Hello? Awake so early? Weird. It took me too long, really, to recognize the voice. I definitely hadn't expected to hear her. You still remember my phone number? Have it written down. Oh yeah, of course. What was I hoping for? What do you want? Aren't you rude today? Woke up on the wrong side of the bed? I distinctively imagined her smirk. Rude? You bet. After what happened yesterday. And she just ditched me at the bar. You mean the note? What else could I mean? You know, I even believed it for a second. I even came. She didn't answer immediately. So did I. Yeah? But you weren't there at 8. The bartender told me that you had left 3 hours before. That's correct. Suddenly, Catherine's voice grew firm. You didn't expect me to sit there for 3 hours, did you? So it was just another trick of yours. No, I was just waiting. In a different place. Outside. But you didn't come. I did. Not at 8. Yeah, maybe I was a couple minutes late. So what? I think you had enough time. Except that I had spent that day with Himitsu in the amusement park and therefore hadn't found the note in time. But there was no reason for Catherine to know that. I came as soon as I could. What do you want from me then? I don't want anything. You're the one who called. You're right about that. She smirked. I guess I shouldn't have, judging by your reaction. Katja, I'm a human being too. No one doubts that. You know, maybe I am in the wrong here. All these notes and secrets? It's not my style. I figured. What do you mean? Nothing, really. Just a couple days ago, I seriously considered Catherine to be the person who had left the note at my door. As it turned out, she signs hers. Do you still want to talk? I couldn't see her face but wasn't sure I would have been able to read her emotions, even if she'd been right in front of me. I would like to talk, but our conversations can hardly be called a dialogue of late. I'll see you in the city center in 2 hours. Okay. And don't be late this time. Catherine almost commanded me and hung the phone. You bet I won't. I said into the silence and went to my room to dress up. I didn't fancy the idea of coming to the meeting early and spending however long wandering there alone. So I was just sitting at the doorstep, looking at Himitsu's house. Today was their big cleanup day, right? For me too, perhaps. A big mental cleanup day. I could open the windows and air out the smell of dead feelings, throw away my musty thoughts, scrub the rust off the wrinkles of my brain, and polish my skull. A visit to a psychologist is a common occurrence in American movies. It isn't as widespread in Japan, and I'm not sure whether psychologists even exist in the USSR. I could probably use one. Himitsu's father's car approached the house. I gave him a nod of greeting and responded likewise. I wondered. Would I already have a bullet in my head if Himitsu had told him everything that had happened between two of us lately? Or would a for sale sign appear in front of their house? Her father, Ryonosuke-san, was too Japanese. I didn't remember her mother well, but she seems more friendly. No wonder they ended up divorcing. There was still an hour before the meeting with Catherine. If I walked slowly, I'd be right on time. Sometimes I thought that normal Japanese people only had 2 sets of clothes. A business suit and a casual outfit, only worn on weekends. And for their casual look, everyone went nuts. I wasn't really obsessed with fashion, but still tried not to stand out in a bad way. Although in Tokyo, a tall European guy almost stands out, no matter how he's dressed. A man had approached me on the street at once and gave me the business card of a modeling agency. After that, I spent an entire evening looking at myself in the mirror and trying to figure out in what way I resembled a model. The clock in the window of the shop across the street told it was the time we'd agreed to meet at. Tick-tack, tick-tack. I'd almost had enough of this. Catherine was just about half an hour late. Has she decided to dump me again? Japanese people usually agree to meet at all the same places. Near stations, at fountains, on squares, and at monuments. Why this shop then? Because this was the place where we had our first kiss. Ooh, backstory, nice. Just like that, on a busy street in the afternoon without shame, in front of everyone. Maybe it wasn't the most romantic place, but I couldn't wait anymore, and she didn't seem to mind. But it all happened so long ago, as if in a previous life. And now I was standing here, losing the last remnants of my self-respect, waiting for who knows what. Sorry. I turned around to see Catherine standing in front of me. It was strange that she appeared from that side. I thought you'd come from there. I waved my hand in the direction where her house used to be. I don't need to take the subway anymore. Let's calculate the time a little. Start our logic. Yeah, sure. The ones who come late to school always live closest to it. A little. I've already stopped waiting for you. Then what are you doing here? She smiled. Quite genuinely as it seemed. Must be a habit too. Alright, let's walk. I can see the owner of that shop giving me suspicious looks. Of course, Katja knew what shop it was when she decided on the meeting point, but my words still made her blush and quickly lower her head. For a while, we walked in silence. To be honest, I don't even know where to start. Let's just not start this all over again for the 100th time, alright? I think we've already figured out who returned to where and why. Okay. We have... I mumbled limply. I really didn't have the strength to go over this again. Honestly, I just have no idea what else we should talk about. Let's enjoy the silence then. Do you need company for that? Well, we could also chat. My Japanese is a little rusty. Do you really need it though? In a year, you'll be studying in a college in the States. Who knows? She replied wistfully. There's no way you want to stay here. And you? Do I have a choice? There's always a choice, but most people simply don't see it. That's easy to say in your position. It is. One thing I always liked about Katja was her sincerity. Not honesty, no. She kept a lot to herself, even hid things. But she was never overly polite and refused to adjust herself to others. She would disagree with or even offend older people if they were wrong. Never idolized anyone remote successfully, as was common here. She always had that inner strength, and to be honest, I often felt like a little intimidated around her, knowing she was a stronger person than I. That had been the case back then. Now she appeared to just be an arrogant, petulant, bad-mannered girl who toyed with me, fully aware of my feelings. Excuse me. So, what are your plans for the future? Same as before? Exactly the same as before. Nothing. What would Himitsu say about that? Do you care? Somehow it seemed to me that she did. Suddenly, Catherine stopped and looked at me intently. Do you still not know anything? Know what? I felt uneasy, as if I was missing some vital detail. I don't want people to think I'm at fault here, that I'm interfering in your life or relationships. The thought alone makes me feel gross, like I care. This sort of thing was typical for Catherine. She was always overly obsessed with how she appeared to other people. Just imagining it. Catherine clenched her teeth angrily. And nobody's accusing you of anything. Just put yourself in my shoes. It seems to be too much of a coincidence. Coincidence is a good way to put it. There's nothing more to it than that. Katya seemed outwardly calm while she's saying that, but I was sure that in reality she was much more agitated than the day before. We can forget all this and move on. I said expectantly even to myself and stopped. Forget? She asked, startled. Well, yes, it's the best option. Nobody's at fault. Yes, things just happened. Things happened and in the end, yeah. That was the fastest and most ridiculous ending to any war in history. We achieved peace by destroying the population of both countries. That's why you decided to meet here, right? Catherine didn't reply, didn't even give me a look. Excuse me. All you said was in the city center, and I came here. Because this is the most convenient spot, not too far from my place or from yours. Well, it was definitely just a coincidence, nothing more than that. Here you go again. She let out a sigh. Just getting a little nostalgic, I beg your pardon. I'm not going to shame you for that. Catherine pretended to look at something on the other side of the street to hide her embarrassment. That's something. You can't shame a person for their memories. It's a bad idea to point fingers to begin with. You have to start with yourself. Is that a statement or advice? Both, I guess. She paid zero attention to the obvious ambiguity of my words. Remember when you ditched the class before you had a fight with our English teacher? Yeah, she was wrong, and I pointed out his mistake. In Japan, being older is more important than being right. Catherine laughed quietly. And then you followed me. Of course I did. The class was boring anyway, and I wanted to get to know you better. I guess you're not happy you know me now. Himitsu isn't, for sure. My entire life doesn't revolve around her, you know. Well, maybe it did now. Don't take that as an accusation. Quite the opposite. What about you? Is there a dashing cowboy waiting for you in the US? This joke fell flat and she didn't respond right away. No. Sorry, it's none of my business. I wasn't looking for anyone. I told you, it's none of my business. So, you're not interested at all? Katja finally stopped and gave me a curious look. I don't know how to respond to that. Relax, it was a joke. You and your jokes. By the way, do you want to drop by? Catherine pointed at the building entrance next to us. Do you live here now? What was this? It's more convenient than before, isn't it? Yeah, closer to our school. Wouldn't your mother mind me coming in? She's at work. Ah, is that so? I have a feeling you're misinterpreting the situation. I can't imagine how else I could interpret it. Okay, once again, I just don't want to be considered. I'm just being polite. It's Japanese hospitality. Yeah, you and I are very Japanese. Catherine smiled slightly, which somewhat calmed me down. Maybe it was time to stop pretending she was hit. Oh my god, please, just don't mention her in this one, please. She must have felt somewhat guilty as well. Alright, let's go. Catherine lived in a pretty large apartment. A place that spacious in the middle of Tokyo could only be afforded by very wealthy people, or high-ranking diplomats. Not that the Winters family had much to complain about even in the past. They used to live in decent multi-family housing block, although not in the most prestigious of districts. Did that mean that her mother had been promoted? Sit down already. Catherine said, clearly displeased by me studying her gesture for far too long. Everything looks so European. Do you find it weird? Not really. Do you want some coffee? Tea? I still couldn't figure out why Catherine had invited me here in the first place. No, thank you. Stop acting like you're being interrogated. She smiled. You would make a good policewoman. Noted. Thanks. So, what do you want to talk about? We should have talked right away. I guess you're right about that. I remained silent, afraid to interrupt when she was speaking so candidly. Besides, I don't want to use the snake that I did something wrong. I don't want someone else, anyone, to think that. Besides, because I didn't. She gave me a furious look as if I was objecting. Kyosuke must have already told everyone at school. Come on, he wouldn't. Of course he did. But then why would she transfer to our school at all? I couldn't answer that question right now as much as I wanted to. You are a terrible liar. It didn't feel like the first time someone told me as much. Terrible because you usually have nothing to lie about. Because nothing happens in my life? Isn't that true? Do you want to teach me or... Katya stood at the side of the room, looking out the window with a sad expression, her arms folded over her chest. I'm not rushing you. Just put yourself in my shoes. I can't. And not because I don't want to. I simply can't. I don't know your situation. She smiled slightly and shifted her gaze to me. You think I'm such a bitch, don't you? I don't. Sometimes I just... Very often I don't really understand you. Neither do I. I don't know what happened next. You think I have it easy. But you're responsible for your own life. Nobody can take you halfway around the world, like a piece of luggage just because that's the job. I know you don't like it here. Don't like it? Catherine smirked bitterly. I have maybe one good memory of this country. What is it? Suddenly her expression changed. Maybe you'd still like some tea? Well, alright. Refusing twice would have just been impolite. Katja quickly walked to the kitchen, leaving me alone in the living room. What was she talking about? It seemed I was beginning to understand why she had invited me here, but was too afraid to admit it even to myself. Excuse me. So as to not be even more disappointed afterward. She would come back with hot tea in hand, cold and arrogant once again, and I would only be able to think about how the two of us were about to make up. Maybe she just simply didn't know what she wanted. I stood up and walked around the room. It was spotless, though not really that big. A phone hung on the wall, and a small piece of paper with a telephone number was stuck next to it. I guess she hadn't memorized this number yet. I quickly grabbed a pen from the table and wrote the number on my hand. Catherine kept the place tidy. Only a few notebooks carelessly scattered on the table standing out the general picture. I picked up one of them and flipped through it. Modern Japanese language. For a hard-working student with far-reaching plans to enroll in the prestigious college, she made too many mistakes. Although I doubted she would need Japanese in the US. I looked more carefully. The way she wrote some kanji looked familiar to me. Was Katja's handwriting similar to Kyosuke's? No, not really. It was too even. I started to turn over the pages feverishly, looking for certain words. You, grave, people. Kanji and hiragana on the pages before me started to form into sentences. Nikolai-san, be careful, you're in grave danger. Certainly powerful people linked to your father are after you. This is not a prank or a hoax. No doubt about that. That note was written in the same handwriting. The notebook's cover in the same neat manner was written. Catherine Winters. But how? Why? I started feverishly flipping through other notebooks. It was all the same. But back then, during the break, I was sure the handwriting was different. I heard steps from the kitchen and got scared out of my mind. Sorry, it took so long. I don't usually drink tea, and you aren't a big fan of coffee. What's the matter with you? Catherine asked, and startled. Apparently I look weird, putting it mildly. Nothing. Good thing I managed to put the notebooks back the way they had been. Yeah. Are you sure? You look like you just seen a ghost. She smiled and put a cup on the table. I couldn't force myself to pick it up as I could feel my hands shaking. Suddenly I felt terrified of being in the same room with this girl. I was absolutely sure that the note wasn't a prank or a hoax. It would have been completely out of character for Catherine. If she had decided to write something like this, it was serious, whether it was a threat or a warning. Nikolai? Yeah, sorry. I just remembered. I've got some stuff to do. Katja looked at me carefully but didn't say a word. Very urgent stuff. I need to. Even under circumstances, I would hardly been able to come up with just something urgent to do, especially something I somehow forgot about. Catherine would never believe me, like she didn't believe me now. You don't feel comfortable being here? She asked in a detached voice. No, don't say that. I just... Right when I finally decided to talk to you? Off you go. Katja finished coldly, nodding toward the exit. Yeah, thank you. I mean, bye. See you at school tomorrow. It's a considerable effort not to break into a run. When I left the building, I realized that it was hard to breathe. My heart was pounding furiously, and it took some time to come to my senses. I wondered if she was watching me out of the window. Luckily, I was standing under a canopy. But I was standing for way too long. Suspiciously long. Trying to keep a steady pace, I walked away from Catherine's house. I felt better among the other people, away from her. Why did I react like this? Yeah, I didn't want to think that Catherine would make fun of me this way, but she changed so much in over a year and a half. And if she really wanted to warn me about something, did not mention my father's work. I doubt that Katya had to do anything with it, but her mother. I slowly walk away from the ever-busy center of Tokyo, and soon skyscrapers give way to small houses huddled together. It was quiet here as always, and more importantly, it was serene. Catherine wouldn't have liked it. Maybe she just wanted to take revenge on me. But why would she invite me to her apartment and try to explain something? I still can't fully believe she was the one to write that note. And what about the call? The voice had been clearly male. Even if I assumed that it was all Katya's idea, what, was she an evil genius with a gang of henchmen at hand? Of course, everything could be much simpler. I could be simply overthinking it and making absurd assumptions. But then, what had my life been going its normal course until just a week ago? And now everything was going down the road to hell. Still, this day would soon end and a new one would begin. The few people on the streets walked with smiles on their faces. Sunday was possibly their only day off in the entire week, so why would they be happy about going to work tomorrow? If I were to rethink the flow of Japanese life from Catherine's perspective, everything would seem much more depressing than I usually saw it. But was that really enough to treat me like she had? Excuse me. I only reached home an hour and a half later. It was stupid to think that Himitsu was waiting for me. Inside there was only silence, even more deafening in contrast with the outside, where the evening birds sang their songs. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and froze into something akin to delirium. What next? What was I supposed to do? How was I supposed to live? The note. I stormed to my room and took the note out of the drawer. Yes, the handwriting was definitely the same. There was no doubt that the note had been written by Catherine. I didn't even care for the why of it anymore. The only thing I wanted to know was, why me? Why was she doing this to me? Why did she keep doing this to me? But I still couldn't shake off the thought of our conversation in her apartment today. She just didn't resemble a sadist or a spy. What if her handwriting was faked? But what for? I continued coming up with theories, all based on my extraordinary importance. Maybe mostly because otherwise it meant Katya was doing all this out of resentment towards me. Maybe seeking revenge. I didn't want to believe that. I simply couldn't force myself to. The ringing of the phone sounded peaceful, casual, but I flinched out of habit. It wasn't even evening yet. It seemed a bit early for assassins, spies, or any other dissidents. Hello? My voice sounded unnatural even to myself. Oh, it's Michael. Alright. Nick, are you alright? Why would Michael need me now? Never better. Well, if you say so. Continued after a short pause. It wasn't in his character to pry. So you didn't forget anything? No. What am I supposed to have forgotten? We were planning to go to the cinema. We were? I really didn't remember anything like that. Maybe we actually did. Most likely at school. He asked and I agreed without even realizing what he was talking about. These days I only thought about one thing. Yeah, right. You know, let's go another time. I have a headache and tomorrow we have classes. So I didn't even want to come up with a believable excuse. In a situation like this, Michael would be as tactful as possible no matter what. Alright, see you tomorrow then. So long. I hung up and stared at the front door. I could have asked her what was going on. I was pretty sure Katya would have killed me there and then. Suddenly, I felt that I was missing something. A tiny detail. a truffle that was necessary to put this puzzle together? Or was it all just a dream? At the time, 1.5 years ago, I often imagined that nothing had changed. I'd wake up the next day and everything would be the way it used to. Catherine hadn't gone anywhere. We were together and loved each other. And everything that had happened in reality was just another nightmare. It turned out that my nightmare went on to become more horrifying with every minute. And not waking up at all would have been the better option. I could have tried to find consolation with Himitsu, but after yesterday, and then suddenly, I felt better. If only someone could see me now. What a pathetic sight. Yeah, I've always been prone to agonizing over my thoughts, but I never sunk to the point of self-pity. To this disgusting feeling that manifests when you think that the entire world is to blame and everyone is against you. A car stopped at Himitsu's house. Her father was back. Hadn't this already happened today? Recurring events? There had been too many of them during the past year and a half. The same day every day. The same day every month. This every day every year to year. And in the end, a noose hanging from the ceiling of a 6th tatami room. Huh. Although I wasn't sure I'd even managed to properly hang myself, tall as I was. If things continued on the same course, even Himitsu would have had enough and leave me. So life itself was pulling me out of the butchered swamp by my hair and pushing forward along the yellow brick road. With my companions, the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, perhaps Toto as well. I wonder if they would like the comparison. But in order to move forward, you have to make decisions. For example, talk to Catherine about the note. But not today. Today I was too tired. Sunday night was descending upon Tokyo, a night that provided a chance to get that final bit of fun before Monday. The craziest and most desperate fun. Oh, back to the familiar bar again with the bartender. So, half an hour later, I stood at the door of the familiar bar. Inside, it was loud, filled with smoke and reeking of booze. It's normal for the Japanese to have a drink or two after work, when hanging out with friends or on a date. It was considered acceptable, sometimes even obligatory. What kind of corporate event would it be without eating and drinking? The only problem was that most of them had little to no tolerance for alcohol. 2 or 3 beers were usually enough to take them out, call a taxi, or carry them home on your back. That's why I didn't like drinking with the Japanese. No matter what, in an hour's time you were left alone. At that point, you're just wasting booze. Oi, Kolya! Bartender's greeting reached me through the noises of the crowd. He peeked over the heads of the people at the counter. Why had I chosen this bar and come here so often? I couldn't say it was close to my house, and the bar sort of resembled a Soviet Ryumaknoye. I don't know if I pronounced that word correctly, but I guess Google Translate will help me for this one. Anyway, where that is. Yes. Ryumaknoye. Guys, it's Russian, so how should I pronounce it? Ryumaknoye. Huh. It's kind of interesting to say. Hang on. Let me turn off the audio first. There you go. What's the pronunciation? What's the pronunciation again? I think I don't understand what you're saying. Ryumaknoye. All right. That explains everything about it. Anyway, thank you Google for that help. All right, where was I? And definitely not because of the bartender. Hey there. What can I get you? I'll go for whiskey. Double whiskey. Whoa. Something happened? Yeah, life happened. Is it that bad? Worse than usual. I'd love to hear about it, but work is aplenty as you can see. He smiled apologetically, poured me a glass and was about to take the bottle away when I stopped him by carefully grabbing his arm. Leave it be. I'm partying it tonight. Kolya, do you know how much this whiskey costs? I don't, and I don't care. You have nothing over 5,000 yen anyway. True enough. Bartender guffawed and raced to the other end of the bar to greet just arrived middle-aged man with reddish cheeks. Huh. Without the bartender around, there was a little sense sitting at the counter, so I moved to a free table. A waitress approached me right away. He could be found here on the weekends, but I could coldly told her that I wasn't hungry. Don't let her slip me a menu. Watching the drinking laymen was a kind of entertainment too. They didn't really care about being overheard by others, many shouting as loudly as they could. Visiting any bar in Tokyo on a Sunday evening, you might learn that sales manager Ibashi secretly hates his boss, that secretary Minomi-chan cheats on her husband, and big boss Toki-san fears so much for his children's future that he can't sleep properly. The next day, they'd all go to work in a good mood, and even if they couldn't manage to recall what they'd done or said the night before. I look at the full bottle of whiskey. And as for me... Oh! Oh my. Who are you, by the way? I mean, yeah, she's beautiful, I would say. She's pretty beautiful. Yeah. Is this it taken? A young woman in a straight red business suit was standing in front of me. Oh boy. Oh boy. I have a bad feeling for this one, but at the same time have a good eruption feeling in my pants right now. Anyway, moving on. A European. I looked around the pub and realized that there were no other free seats. No. Oh, sorry. I'm just... She laughed and put down one of the complicated cocktails from the bartender's vast collection. It's weird to meet a non-Japanese person here. Oh, I didn't mean... It's my first time here, and I don't know you. Sorry again. She was clearly tipsy, laughed a lot, and had entered the condition wherein a decent lady needs about a half a glass of champagne to become a chiffonier. Wait, did I pronounce that word correctly? Never mind. Highly sophisticated, but still a piece of furniture. Nonetheless, I was glad to have company, especially a woman's. My entire life could revolve around two girls who didn't know what they want. I guess you're right. We're probably the only Europeans who have visited this bar in its entire history. And not counting the bartender, of course. I smiled, trying to look friendly. Do you come here often? She looked to be about 25, perhaps older. Excuse me. Sometimes. So you like this place? I've been asking myself the same question a couple minutes ago. It's more like I'm used to it. Interesting, she said vaguely and riveted her eyes on me. He must be a student. Yes, sort of. For some reason, I couldn't lie persuasively to her and started to avert my eyes. I couldn't say I was just a high schooler. Wait, Todai? Wait, most famous and prestigious universities. Ah, alright. How did you guess? It just seemed that you're kind of handsome and intelligent young man would study there. She abruptly stretched her hand out to me. Irene Dupont. Parlez-vous français? I was embarrassed but responded with a handshake. I don't know if I pronounced that sentence correctly. Did I just read this one correctly? Let me know in the guys. Let me know in the comments below, alright? Parlez-vous français? Yeah, I'm not good at other languages, but please, I'm trying my best to pronounce it. Come on. A bit of appreciation at least. Wait, I think I forgot to read the last one. Anyway. I was embarrassed but responded with a handshake. And Nikolai Anokin. Oh, so you're from the USSR. And without letting me say a word, continued. Moscow is a wonderful city. I've been there. The Kremlin, the Red Square. Are you from Moscow? Maybe from Leningrad? A magnificent, magnificent place. Fabulous museums. Are you from there? St. Petersburg. Oh, wait. Okay. You could say I'm from here. Oh, that's interesting. I have just arrived recently. Strange, I could barely hear an accent. I work here as an attaché at the embassy. Everything here is so... Irene spread her arms, clearly showing how exactly so everything was. But unfortunately, I don't really have much free time. Like today, we went out with my Japanese colleagues, but I lost them already. What a goofball. She broke into loud laughter. Can you imagine? It happens. It happens. I was flattered by the attention of a girl like this. Or should I say a woman? It really wasn't the same kind as the girls I knew. Oh, just ow, my fingers, ow. Maybe Ellie. But even she lacked Irene's mature charm. So, here I am now, sitting all alone. Oh, sorry. I meant to say with you. Of course, with you. She covered my hand with hers. Thank you, Nikolai, for accompanying this poor, silly mademoiselle. Thanks to you, too. But enough about me. What about you? What do you study? She straightened up and removed her hand. Well, I don't even know. What a dumb thing to say. We just have some general subjects for now. I haven't chosen my major yet. Maybe something in liberal arts. Can you do that? She asked with surprise. That's what I would really like to know myself. Of course. It's Todai after all. It's good to be young, Irene said. I decided it was my opportunity. Come on now. If not for your suit, I think you were a student as well. She laughed. Do they make diplomats work on the weekends too? On weekends, on holidays, and believe it or not, on July 14th. Wait, what's this? Okay, in 1789, in Paris and France, revolutionary surges stormed and seized control of the medieval armory fortress and political prison known as the Bastille. At the time, the Bastille represented royal authority in the center of Paris. Instead, the 14th of July has been celebrated as France's National Day. Ooh. Hey, I haven't heard too much about history, but I think this might be a good addition for this one, so thank you for that one. Even July 14th? That's going too far. Yeah, not like in the USSR at all. Workers' rights, the international. Let's see, Nikolai. Irene, I don't think that. Come on, they're saying they're Enkas. How are we worse? Japanese style music, the culture was almost Russian. American grunge. Ooh, alright. A drunk group in the corner was indeed tunelessly beating and belting out of a love song. I still think it'll be misunderstood. You care about other people's opinions so much? Don't you? You're a diplomat. For a second she froze. Her eyes cleared up and certain awareness and even coldness appeared in her gaze. But the next moment she burst out laughing again. My god, I am so drunk. Nikolai, has anybody ever told you that you are handsome? Keep your pants down, Nikolai. You already had Himitsu and Catherine on your side, but... Don't fall on this urge. Come on, just hold together, Nikolai. Hold together, for fuck's sake. I'd be lying if I said no. Then can I also say that? I didn't know what to think. Half an hour ago, I considered myself an adult, or at least was sure that I could behave like an adult in any situation. Like, excuse me. And now it turned out that it took only one drunk French girl in a dilapidated bar to shatter these assumptions. On the other hand, Irene looked very attractive. Even too attractive. Nikolai, you already have Himitsu and Catherine, and now you're gonna add Irene to your harem list? I mean, yeah, she's pretty hot, not gonna lie, but... Get a hold of yourself together, Nikolai, come on. While talking, I managed to down a third of the bottle, and by then, would have set sights even on Saya-chan. Nikolai, you're looking at me, so... The whiskey washed away the last remnants of my timidness. That's the way anyone would look at a beautiful woman like you if they were in my place. Nikolai, you're saying this to a woman you've just met. But our acquaintance doesn't have to end here, does it? Irene blushed. Now seemingly from... Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I just couldn't hold myself any longer, alright? I mean, damn, she's so fucking hot. I mean, I have I have no reason for that one, but I mean, Jesus Christ, she's so sexy. Anyway, where was I? Irene blushed noticeably from more than just alcohol and leaning towards me and whispered in my ear. Oh my god. Oh my freaking god. Then let's get out of here. My hands were shaking when I dropped a large field. Get a hold of yourself. Come on, get a hold of yourself. My hands were shaking when I dropped a few large bills on the table. Please, Monsieur. She stood up unsteadily and stumbled for the exit. Wait, is this supposed to be exit or exist? I don't know. I leaped to her immediately and offered a hand which she grabbed right away and sagged against. Oh my god. Finally, fresh air. When we emerged onto the street, she made a deep breath and pressed herself to me. We should catch a car. I doubt somebody would stop. Watch and learn. She laughed, walked closer to the roadway, and waved her hand. I couldn't believe my eyes when a minute later a car stopped. I could hear a car screeching, but damn. And what a car! An executive black sedan. Apparently I wasn't the only one struck by her beauty. Hop in! Irene called to me merrily. Oh my god. Oh my freaking god. Well, it seemed that the fairy godmother had lost her magic wand in the bet, because Cinderella wasn't going to come back from the ball with company and, what's more, in a carriage instead of a pumpkin. Oh, wait. Wait, what? Wait, what the fuck just happened? At first, I didn't even pay attention to the fact that the car's windows were blacked out. Wait. Irene, what are you doing? What are you doing? Alright, this is different than what I've seen so far. I haven't actually encountered this before. Anyway, where was I? Well, Nikolai, you're obviously not pretending, Irene said calmly. What? Let's go. She nodded to the driver and looked at me with such antipathy that I started fidgeting in the seat. Irene, what's going on? Her droll joyfulness vanished without a trace. My name is Irina Mostovaya. Major Irina Mostovaya, KGB USSR. She's an agent? From USSR? Oh no. Oh no, this is not a good time. Yeah. And only then did I realize she was speaking Russian. With no hint of an accent. I mean, yeah, why would a Russian girl have an accent? No matter how long you learn a language that is different from your mother tongue, no matter how long you live in a foreign country, it's always clear you weren't born and raised there. That's how it seemed to me, at least. Is this a joke? I still didn't fully realize what was happening. That's what I'd like to ask you. What does this have to do with me? Do you really not recognize me? She frowned. No. Should I? Never mind. From here on, you'll only answer my questions and only with relevant and concise answers. Do you know what happened to your parents? We got in a car accident. They died. I remembered I was sitting in the back, so I survived. Is that not true? I am the one asking questions here. And if you want to hear the answers, I expect a dialogue, I said with unexpected determination. Irina bit her lip angrily. Yes, they died in the car accident, but their death wasn't a coincidence. That's all you need to know for now. What do you know about their work? So my parents were murdered because of their work? Yes. She gave a short response. Kobayashi Corporation. It wasn't a question. So, what do you know? I know nothing. You're interrogating the wrong person. I'm just a student and, what's more, an orphan. You must already have realized that Kobayashi Corporation would have been interested in a mere student. But why me? Irina didn't respond. Tokyo was slowly moving by on the other side of the windows. I had no idea where we were going and I didn't care. It was unlikely that they were going to kill me. That performance at the bar was probably just a test. To my surprise, I was able to think clearly and analyze the situation with a sober mind. That's what we'd like to find out. So all these calls to my house, were they made by the corporation? No, they were from us. We wanted to warn you, but you didn't feel compelled to heed to our warnings. What should I do then? Are you sure you don't know anything? Think again. Maybe your father told you something and you forgot about it. Or maybe he left something to you. Papers, documents. No. I really couldn't recall anything like that. We were a completely normal family. So, in your view, a family of Soviet engineers who fled the USSR and started working for the biggest transnational company in Japan is normal? Irina smirked. Apart from that, everything was normal. Was it? Or do you simply not remember? Even if... I couldn't believe my parents had been involved in something they could be killed for. Even if what you say is true, I don't know anything about that. I've never known. I find it hard to believe. You can believe whatever you want. I started using the polite version of Russian you without thinking. But still, it was all clearly related to me somehow. To my family. Catherine's note. Having them believe as much was already enough. Nikolai, Irina sighed. Have you completely forgotten about your obligation to our motherland? I don't remember having any in the first place. Her eyes flashed, but she managed to stay calm and continued. Yeah. So you think you have it better here? In the country that killed your parents? Why should I trust you anyway? Better? I don't know, but until recently I'd been living a peaceful life before you dragged me into this. We didn't drag you into anything. On the contrary, we're trying to protect you. What a wonderful protection. What does it amount to exactly? Irina sighed. In order to receive something, you need to give something in return first. But I don't have anything. Stop mocking me, she shouted suddenly. You know everything. Just tell me what the Japanese want and we can bring you home. Or do you think you've managed to fool me? Why would you think they need something from me? If you were the ones who called. At the moment, it's none of your business. Then what do you expect from me? Irina calmed down in an instant and studied me with an unblinking stare for some time. Fine. We'll handle it ourselves. You keep your head down, stay away from all this. That's it? That simple? Would you like it to be complicated? I still have questions, which won't be answered if you want to live. If you're telling the truth, then the less you know, the better. Only sources of information have value. Ordinary students are of no interest to anyone, but be prepared to remain under surveillance for a while. By you? Us, among others. Or do you want an accident to happen to you as well? I felt a strong dislike toward this woman. I couldn't believe that just 5 minutes ago I had been hoping for some quick sex with a random acquaintance. Although in a way I got what I wanted, except that I was the one getting fucked. One more thing. Behave normally. Nobody should know we've talked. Anything can expose you. Go to school, hang out with your girlfriends, drink if nothing else. The car stopped smoothly. We've arrived. Get out. I could make out the silhouette of my house behind the window. Hoping Mitsu didn't see me brought home like this. I had the time to think. And keep in mind, we do not repeat ourselves, so do yourself a favor and remember everything I've just told you. The luxurious black sedan with black windows disappeared around the corner almost silently. I stood at the entrance of the yard, mindlessly watching it go. That's when it started to shake, almost spasm in fear. How had I managed to remain outwardly calm and think straight? My legs carried me to my house on their own accord. I closed the door and the garden door, and another one, and all the windows. I had so many windows. I wish I had a gun. I lay in bed staring into the darkness with dry eyes. It was obvious that the checist wouldn't come back. At least, not today. And what about the Japanese? If they kept me under surveillance, they could have seen me hop into that car. The only hope I've had was that those KGB student agents knew what they were doing. Catherine, what did you drag me into? Whew, alright. That's a long one, I would say. And oh! September 9/14. Oh, there's a ladle and letter or something. Also, this is now we're getting into the arc between those characters. Nice. But anyway, I'm gonna have to save this one up. I don't know if I... Wait, I'm still recording. Oh yes. Almost 1 hour, so I gotta save this one. So, yeah, that's pretty much anything about it. And a lot of things happened from the earlier ago, not to mention a conversation with Irene, which is supposedly a KGB agent from USSR. And yeah, that was... I almost fell into that kind of trap, but I gotta be honest with you, Irene is pretty hot, and yeah, yeah, I don't know if I can hold on any much longer about the Yellowstone eruption in my pants right now. Same goes to Nikolai as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it about the events happening right now in this 8th episode. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. And that's it, pretty much anything about it. So if you haven't watched the previous video I mentioned earlier ago, the link is in the description below. And again, subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed yet, and also hit the notification bell to get notified for the upcoming videos in my channel. And also hit the like button if you find this video enjoyable. And yeah, I guess that's it then. Take care and stay safe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Goodbye, everyone.